Stanley presents, oh, hey, that's me, The Further Adventures of Indiana Jones. Excelsior.
Welcome.
It's time for The Further Adventures of Indiana Jones.
The greatest adventures of all time.
I don't know. I'm making this up as I go.
Pack your bag, grab your passport, and prepare to go globetrotting with Marvel Comics' classic four-color adventures of Indiana Jones.
Jones?
Mr. Jones, I've heard a lot about you, sir. Your appearance is exactly the way I imagined.
Son of a...
I'm here now. What do you want to talk about?
Welcome, IndyCast listeners and further fans, to the Further Adventures of Indiana Jones. I'm Joe Stuber.
And I'm Keith Voss. Joe, got some crazy stuff going on in the world, huh?
It is a little, yeah, it's strange days indeed. Look, a little bit of inside baseball in the last episode that we talked about or that I mentioned. So, first of all, good to hear from you, my brother. Good to get together with you again.
Good to be back.
I know things are crazy right now. The last time that Keith and I actually got together to record, as I mentioned on the last episode of the IndyCast, was like late February. So a lot has changed since then. We're getting together. We're going to record right now. Like I said, we record these a little bit ahead of time to give Ed some lead time on things going. But the last time you and I recorded, a few days later, Indiana Jones news broke.
Yes.
That you and I haven't had a chance to talk about. So obviously the biggest news with everything is, obviously all film productions, all television production, everything put to a screeching halt until, we all get through this. So first of all, hope everybody is safe. Hope everybody is following the precautions, washing your hands. Look, we're used to staying inside and doing nothing, right? Just put some movies on and listen to podcasts and read comic books. And
totally normal for me so far.
It's not a problem to be doing this. Go through our long boxes, right? And
that's right.
Catch up on all those comic books that we haven't had a chance to read. But so obviously, as we were recording the last time, a lot of Indiana Jones news was coming in. So that was exciting. But then, obviously everything happened and film production got put to a halt. So I know that kind of freaked a lot of people out as far as, if there was going to be another Indiana Jones 5 or not, if this was going to come out, fans of Indiana Jones were like, okay, is that going to put the kibosh on the movie altogether? I don't think it will. I think things are, once things get back up and running again, things will slowly get back to normal. I think film and TV productions. I know a lot of like TV finales didn't happen, and they're pushing them off to like 2021, right? So,
well, look, Indy 5 has been pushed off.
Forever.
Long enough as it is anyway. What's a couple of more months? If you know what I'm saying, maybe gives them a little bit more time to polish the script up. I know that was also an issue as well. But as far as everything that we've heard from Harrison Ford, they were ready to shoot, I think, beginning of April, May kind of thing. So obviously that is going to put a little bit of a hold on things. That could be a good thing.
He alluded to that. When we last spoke, when you and I last got together, that was the news that was breaking. He had done those interviews at Call of the Wild. He was promoting Call of the Wild. And kind of a throwaway, we're starting Indiana Jones in a few months. So they wouldn't have done that without a script. I think you hit the nail on the head, though. I think this gives them an opportunity to even polish the script even more. I think
absolutely.
And isn't that always the tricky part that they get? Even when Lucas was writing and he was involved, it was always like, we need to get a good script. If we don't have a good script, we can't. And then how many versions of Crystal Skull did they go through? Like 11 or something like that. I don't even know.
Yeah, quite a lot.
Yeah.
Same thing with Star Wars, which really bit them, in the rear at the end. Is I don't feel like they had enough time to really polish out a cohesive story for these movies. I felt that they were rushed.
Yeah.
Even the prequels had 3 years in between movies. We had 2 years, and it felt a bit rushed. So you know what?
It felt slapped together too, right?
Yeah,
didn't
exactly.
it felt like let's put a bunch of stuff in, right? Throw it all in and make it Star Warsy and people. Yeah,
exactly. So now they have an opportunity here to really just say, hey, okay, let's just kind of take a second look at all this again, or third look, or fourth look.
Take as many looks as you want.
Take as many looks as you want at this point, and try to make sure that this is going to be either a proper curtain call, which it seems like that's what it could be, for the character. And also, don't forget that another big set of news that we had that we have not really talked about yet was Spielberg's exit as the director of Indy 5. Which
that happened, I think, 3 days after you and I last recorded. So we saw that. So you and I have not had a chance to talk about that.
We haven't really had a chance to talk about that. Which I see kind of a bit. I mean, Spielberg's departure, a little bit of a good thing and a bad thing. I see it as a bad thing because, of course, Spielberg, has been on board from the beginning. He knows the character. He's very dedicated to bringing this character to life. He loves the character. But you know what? Maybe at this point, I think it could also be a good thing to get some fresh insight to this character. A lot of the fans could probably just go into this movie thinking like, well, if Spielberg's not directing it, then whatever, it's not going to be good. But I think maybe a fresh set of eyes, a fresh perspective, could bring new life back into this franchise.
I think it's a great thing. I mean, you mentioned that Spielberg, has been on board since the beginning. I don't know that he has been on board since the beginning. I don't think he's been on board since '89.
Yeah,
I mean, be honest. I think
he wasn't on board for a lot of the Crystal Skull stuff.
No,
I mean,
he wasn't on board. I mean, he directed it, but I think when he sent, our favorite adventure off into the sunset, literally off riding into the sunset, I think he was done. You look at all those interviews with him and behind-the-scenes extras, he had to be dragged kicking and screaming into Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. He didn't want aliens. He hated George's idea. They had to tweak it to space between spaces and, interdimensional beings. He was like, all right, but look, you and I love the movie. It's fun to watch. It is, but
it is fun to watch.
Some of the things that we love, like they didn't go to other continents to shoot it. It was shot on sets. It was. I don't think he wants to go do these things, and it's obvious because he said, "Nah, I'm done. I'll produce it, but I'm not going to direct this one." Which I think is fantastic.
I agree. I mean, I don't know if this is going to make much sense, but I always feel like I kind of see Crystal Skull as really just the fourth Indiana Jones movie. I don't see it as really part of the series proper. I see Raiders, Temple, Last Crusade as a trilogy, and Crystal Skull kind of just is like this extra little thing that we got. You know what I'm saying? Like it seems to be such a mishmash of a lot of the things that made Crystal Skull popular, a lot of the things that made Raiders popular.
Yeah, I mean, it's a different era too. It was shot in a different era because you think about, the original trilogy back in the 80s. That was a whole different time for those types of films. And then you're coming into this, and it was, just think how much had happened since Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. I mean, Lucas sold it off to Disney. He's not involved anymore. Disney and Marvel blew up the whole movie universe and set a template for certain things. I think even Harrison referred to that in one of the interviews of like the Marvel way of doing things. So it's almost like Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is kind of like this oddball entity kind of out there in its own little world.
It's exactly what I meant.
Nothing like it before it. Everything has changed after it. So it kind of exists in its own little universe. I don't know that anything that was set in that movie is going to come out of it. Obviously Shia LaBeouf. I can't imagine him being in the new one. If Disney, which we've talked about, I think is going to happen, they're going to reboot, hopefully with a different actor. Not reboot, but you know what I'm talking about. Going back and maybe doing the 40s and a younger actor and things like that. So I think Spielberg not being involved in this as a director, he's going to produce, which means he's going to make sure that it has everything it needs to have. All the resources and things like
tropes.
that.
Right.
Yeah. So I think, I don't know. To me, just having the extra time working on the script, bringing some new blood in, a different vision. Yeah. I mean, nothing official yet, but they're talking about James Mangold coming in to direct. So, good vision. Good vision.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you've seen Logan, it was a good send-off for that character, at least in my opinion. Not a lot of people love that movie, but people thought for a proper send-off for that character, I mean, he was, he did a pretty decent job, and maybe that's what they're eyeing for this movie, is a proper send-off for the character. And
you keep saying send-off. I think
I think it is. I think it is. I mean, that's just my
send-off. I think for that era, but I still think they're going to go back and do. Yeah, I think think we'll probably get the last with Harrison, but I think we're going to go back in time and just get some really cool Indiana Jones adventures. So, who knows? Look, everything's on hold right now.
Yeah,
as we're recording
see how
this,
things play out.
Yeah, but I think Spielberg exiting as director, I think that's going to be ultimately a good thing. I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to Indy 5. Definitely what I'm looking forward to today is another Indiana Jones adventure that we can talk about, one that does exist in the universe.
Yeah, so a cool little mini adventure.
It's one we've been talking about for a little while now, a very cool mini adventure, and we're going to be hitting this whole section of sort of Ethan Beaver's amazing Indiana Jones adventures as we go for these next couple of episodes. So first of all, why don't we talk about this Indiana Jones mini adventure from Dark Horse Comics, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Yearning. All right, yeah, spoiler alert. We are going to go into detail on this adventure. And look, Keith, this is one that may have sneaked by a few Indy fans back in the day. Sort of dropped in between Indiana Jones Adventures Volume 1, Indiana Jones Adventures Volume 2. This is a 6-page mini-adventure that was published by Dark Horse Comics in their free Comic Book Day 2009 issue that was released on May 2nd, 2009. And the comic also included a Star Wars Clone Wars story, The Gauntlet of Death. That was pretty cool. So why don't you go ahead and give us the creator rundown on these?
Absolutely. We have Indiana Jones and the Temple of Yearning. Writer Mark Evanier, who is also on the show previously. Yep. Pencils by Ethan Beavers, colors Rhonda Patterson, and letters Michael Heisler. The cover was very interesting because the free Comic Book Day flip cover for the comic includes a reused character art from the cover of Indiana Jones Adventures Volume 1 of Indy and Teresa Lawrence, which was something that caught my eye immediately.
Yeah, there's like all kinds of things going on here. So like everything that's in this free Comic Book Day comic, all the different stories, they're all out there. Indiana Jones right at the top there. Great Ethan Beavers art. We love that. We're going to be talking to Ethan coming up on another segment here. You mentioned Mark Evanier.
Yes.
My interview with Mark Evanier, Indiana Jones Talk, I included that back on IndyCast episode 203. So if fans haven't heard that, they can go listen to that full interview with Mark Evanier. It was on Comic Book Central episode 53. So you can check out the full interview. I put the Indiana Jones stuff on the IndyCast. He mentioned that this was the first time anyone ever interviewed him about Indiana Jones.
Woohoo.
So that was pretty cool too. So we talk about that. And of course, look, we've got a mini of it. It's 6 pages, but you had something to do with a little bit more backstory on this adventure, though, right?
Yes. Well, back in the day when we were doing a lot more of the shorter radio dramas, we did a radio drama based on this comic, and that was a lot of fun. We really wanted to kind of do more. Adapting, so kind of like where the read-alongs would come into it, where you could kind of read the comic while listening to like an audio version of it, kind of just to kind of immerse you into the story a bit more.
Yeah, we did some of the at least one read-along. We've got another. I promise we'll have another read-along coming up. But yeah, as opposed to just an exact narration of the comic, you went in and made like a 15-minute adventure out of this. You wrote a script originally for like a 15-minute adventure.
Yes.
And have the sound effects and the voice. You guys, did an amazing job. Yeah, it's really cool. In fact, why don't we take a listen to it right now?
Thailand, 1939. They had been walking, climbing, and sometimes stumbling through the dank jungle for hours. Unforgivably hot, the canopy so thick it was stifling. You could barely hear a living thing during this, the hottest time of the day. One thing you could hear was his leather jacket, alternately sticking and sliding. And it didn't help. Not in this heat. With his young guide Bhakti a few steps ahead of him, Indiana Jones stopped and removed his fedora, took a deep breath and wiped the sweat from his brow.
The heat I don't mind, as long as it's just that, not snakes.
Bhakti stopped and turned.
What you say, Dr. Jones?
Nothing, kid. Are you sure we're still in Campaign Pet Province? Seems like we've been walking all day.
Excellent job on that. If folks haven't heard that complete, should be able to get a link in the show notes for this episode. Hopefully I can put a link to that. But if you just Google Temple of Yearning radio drama, it'll come up there. And we'll post this on our Facebook page too. Go give it a like there. We'll post it there as well too. No date for this adventure specifically. I did check in with Mark Evanier. I did a follow-up question to him to see if he ever established a date for the story, and his words were, nope, no idea, sorry. So, you said it in 1939.
Yeah.
So there's like, I guess that's official, right?
hey, you know what I mean?
I don't think Evanier's going to fight you over that.
No, I don't think so either. I just kind of thought it would be just be interesting to have it a little bit after Last Crusade.
Yeah, it seems to make sense too. So why don't we get into the story a little bit? I mean, again, it's a 6-page mini adventure. We've got it's set in Thailand. Mm-hmm. Indiana Jones and his guide Bhakti. They're going to a lost temple that Indy had discovered through some old writings, and just a really cool opening to this tale too. As we go in, just a nice splash page. To kind of open up Indiana Jones and the Temple of Yearning. I just love that sort of. You'll hear this in our interview with Ethan Beavers coming up, but a lot of shading and shadows play into this. You'll hear why when Ethan talks about this, but that's really cool. Those first couple opening images, and you've got the fedora and the casting the shadow down over Indy's face, and it's very cool.
Very Raiders, and you gotta love any comic book. Yeah, exactly. I was just gonna say any comic book adventure that opens with Indy in the shadows in the jungle is very reminiscent of that opening in Raiders. You got Bhakti, who gave me a major short round vibe throughout this adventure. And yeah, I mean, this temple is said to contain the treasures of a king of Chiang Mai, and Indy has traveled there after a year earlier than he planned. He suspects his college intern named Clifford has been spying on his files.
Yeah, and so he's looking over the temple there, coming in. And before we get to that, I want to mention too, with Ethan Beavers, he got the snake in.
Yeah.
You don't, we talked about this before, like sometimes you have to, in Tomb of the Gods, pretty cool snake joke. Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, not so good of a snake joke. But he sneaked that in there. You get the little snake thing. So obviously Indy doesn't see the snake behind him there. But yeah, we talk about Clifford, and it's a short adventure. It's not long before Clifford shows up, right?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking like the third page in. There he is, right? Yeah. Right there. He's, his suspicions are proven correct. Clifford is driven by his lust for this treasure, and he just immediately pulls a gun on the pair when they show up to confront him. And Indy questions if Clifford has read those warnings. There's some specific warnings to not enter the temple. He taunts that he doesn't know how to do that kind of thing. He's not good at reading warnings and kind of paying attention to those things. Yeah. But Clifford reveals that he has a copy of that secret combination from Jones's translations, and about a certain doom, I believe.
Yeah, and Indy was going to come back with an expedition later, just kind of check in.
Expedition.
Yeah. So I don't know why he just didn't do it this time, but obviously that would have been a completely different adventure.
He kind of just walks away. He's like,
Yeah, I found it. And now we're just going to head back. Yeah, anyway. But look, when you've got a temple and you've got warnings and you've got a big giant statue outside, you're probably going to want to pay attention to some of those warnings too. So Bhakti, kind of grabs the writings out of Clifford's hands, and Clifford just opens up, on Bhakti, and Bhakti's and so
Clifford's not a very good shot.
He's not. He just kind of misses a lot, but Indy doesn't miss, and that's what I love about. We talked about how Ethan Beavers draws these action sequences for Indiana Jones, and we saw that in Volume 1. It's tough to pull off in a comic book when you got action sequences sometimes, but he really kind of nails these things. And so he just takes Clifford out with one punch. Glasses go flying, the gun goes flying. It's just some really, really, really cool stuff. And we've talked about this could be a really cool introduction into an Indiana Jones animated series. I could see this playing out like just even if you had like a Disney streaming service and you had an Indiana Jones adventure, if you had a full 30-minute adventure, but then this could be like one of those like little in between the commercial breaks kind of things.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a really cool thing, but it really plays that. Indy's going to take off, and Yeah, I'm going to come back in the spring with my whole team. But it's interesting because Clifford says, "Oh, it didn't." He just leaves him there. He's like, "Oh, it didn't occur to him that I could have brought 2 copies of the combination." And Clifford's going to go in and, yeah, okay.
He starts adjusting some levers.
Yeah.
And as they depart, we see Indy. Or a huge shadow overtake Clifford, and then as we see Indy and Bhakti just walking out of the jungle.
Well, Bhakti figured it out. He's like, "Do you think you bought another copy?"
Exactly. And
he's like,
"Yeah, of course." But I mean, a certain doom was looks like since this is such a short comic. I mean, we never really quite get what is up with that statue. Is it possessed? Is it a robot? Is it who knows? This would be a nice story to maybe kind of revisit, maybe get a sequel to or something.
Yeah.
I would kind of like that, but I always kind of feel that this is like the middle chapter of those Indie Adventures series. So we did get our trilogy of we have Indie Adventures Volume 1. I'd then like to go to Temple of Yearning. And then you can go to Indie Adventures Volume 2.
Yeah, and it ends on that humorous note. Well, maybe Indy's like, maybe we should go back and check on as he's being swung from his ankles by this giant statue in the background. It's just a nice little preview for these Indiana Jones adventures too. So It's like if somebody looks at this and goes, "Oh, I didn't know Dark Horse Comics was doing Indiana Jones books." You picked a free comic book up back in the day in 2009. It was just so cool that Indiana Jones got to be part of Free Comic Book Day and Dark Horse Comics, and it promoted this, and so hopefully that brought another generation into Indy, because these were all ages adventures. Volume 1 we talked about recently. We're going to be talking about Volume 2 coming up. They're all ages adventures from Dark Horse. A little bit different than, like Tomb of the Gods that they were doing and a lot of their other miniseries. But this was a perfect introduction. So, little kids walking by, hey, Star Wars or something, and they grab that. And maybe that just introduced, a kid in 2009 to Indiana Jones. And maybe a Disney streaming service, and we bring Indy 5 in, and we maybe get an animated series. Maybe, a whole new generation of Indy fans coming out of it. I don't know. But to me, I love this little mini adventure.
Me too. I love it. I love it as well. It's a lot of fun. I always like to see Indy with a new sidekick, exploring any temple. Yeah. Always fun for me. I want more.
Yeah, and there's enough of what we love about Indiana Jones in this, and then, like you said, a new sidekick, something different, a new character.
Right.
Again, just in a few pages, we've got what we love about Indiana Jones and something new and fresh to Indiana Jones right off the bat. So, and again, if you haven't heard the radio drama, please go check it out, because it is so cool, because you do give it some more backstory. So you mentioned Clifford, but in the narration, you kind of go into details on some of these things, and it really fills the story out, I think, in a perfect way. You guys did an amazing job on that.
Yeah, when I wrote this, I thought that Clifford was actually an interesting character. We never had something like that where it was an intern of Indy's before, someone from his university that he's going up against. I mean, we had Forrestal, we had Belloc, we had but this is kind of a younger villain. So I thought that was kind of interesting to maybe explore a bit.
Well, and it shows that there are all these like sort of untold tales of Indiana Jones, and it doesn't take much to Evan Eyre drops this character in here, and we see this play out in Adventures Volume 1 and Adventures Volume 2. There's so much there that you mentioned Forrestal, you mentioned Belloc, but then there's all these other people around the world of Indiana Jones that could be brought in. So there's a lot of tales that could be told. Again, animated series would be so perfect for this. But for people that say, "Oh, well, how much are you going to do?" Because Lucas talked about that all the time. It's like, "Oh, you got to come up with a perfect story," and there's a bunch of them in the comic books. Even Tomb of the Gods, we talk about that. There's so many. It's not that difficult to come up with a great, compelling story and great, compelling characters. And if you can do it in 6 pages like this, that just proves it. So, okay, final thoughts on this. I love it. It's cool, and I love it even more because there's a radio drama attached to it. So.
Well, yeah, same here. I love it, and I also love that there's a radio drama attached to it. It was a lot of work to put that together, but I thought having the radio drama would maybe kind of bring more attention to this story. Maybe people would seek it out and maybe find something that they didn't know even existed. And for people that didn't that weren't able to get this comic, they would have something to listen to and kind of not be left out. Because sometimes these free comic book days, after they're gone, and they're hard to track down. I'm lucky enough to have gotten a copy as well, and I'm really happy how that radio drama came out. And actually, I think I'm gonna go back and listen to it after we're done recording.
Oh, absolutely. And go to eBay. It's probably out there on eBay. Probably, I haven't checked it out, but it's probably, you can probably pick it up for fairly cheap. Who knows? Well, just go get it. You can probably Google it and find it out there too. Anyway, exactly. So, but hey, we want to hear from the listeners out there. What did you guys think about Temple of Yearning? Do you have it? Were you able to track it down? What do you think about the story? What do you think about the art? Keith, how can they tell us about it? Yeah, what did you think about the radio
drama? Yeah, give it a listen. And as always, if you guys want to drop us a line, send us your thoughts on Marvel or Dark Horse Indie Comics. Be sure to get those into us at thefurtheradventures@gmail.com. Be sure to follow us on Facebook also at The Further Adventures of Indiana Jones. We'd love to hear you guys.
Hey, speaking of emails, let's check out the Further Adventures mailbag.
Mister, get your arm out of that mailbox. I mean now.
Oh, dear me. I haven't had so much trouble delivering a package since the incident in Vienna.
First up, we heard from Alex Levitsky of Raiders Radio Productions, our old buddy Alex Levitsky. And Alex writes, "Hey Keith, hey Joe, old brothers in arms. I wanted to write in with a quick review about the books, and I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts about them on the show. Starting off with The Tomb of the Gods, I was really excited about this book when I first picked it up. It's always great to get fresh new indie adventures." I totally agree, Alex. "So when I first read it, I really appreciated the attempt to bring indie back again, but I really felt like a couple of moments were just beyond the realm of reality for me, or that even some of those moments happened so quickly that it didn't breathe like indie exactly. Then I also noticed that art didn't remain consistent, which also had me walking away from my first reading feeling like, well, okay, at least it's good to have indie doing something again. Later I realized the Lovecraftian connections and reread it with a more Cthulhu Mountains of Madness mentality, and I enjoyed it much more. I'm actually very surprised that sometimes writers of adventure genre really sidestep inspiration from Lovecraft when it actually might enhance their story, such as this one. Talk soon, old friends. Oh, and if adventure has a name, something or other, I'm sure you guys remember." Yeah, I think it's Harrison Ford, something like that. Okay. Thanks a lot for writing
Disney.
it, Alex. If adventure has a name, Disney owns it. That's what
Disney owns it.
That's right. Thanks so much for writing in, Alex. Alex also reviewed Indiana Jones Adventures for us, and we will read his comments when we review that Indiana Jones Digest size comic in a few episodes. Thanks a lot, Alex.
Thanks. And we also heard from Steve Rivers. Steve writes, "Hey, Joe and Keith, dug out the 4-issue series of Indiana Jones and the Tomb of the Gods. I think I've read this story 3 times now and still have trouble deciding if I like the MacGuffin or not. We never get to know what it actually is, like the other treasures that Indy hunts in his big adventures. But then I think about how unique it is that we don't know anything about this tomb. I think not knowing what's at stake with the MacGuffin takes me out of it a bit. After 12 years, I'm still on the fence about it. But on a positive note, I thought the art was great. My favorite part of revisiting the comics were all the Indiana Jones merchandise ads. They even advertised some items like a few of the busts that never made it for purchase. Those are the real MacGuffins. Thank you, gentlemen. Talk to you soon." Hey, thank you, Steve. By the way, Steve also wrote in with his review of Indiana Jones Adventures. We're going to read that on an upcoming episode, as Keith said, when we review the book. So we appreciate that. So we'll kind of break those reviews up a little bit. But yeah, Keith, we talked about that. Was one of my favorites, is going back through those original issues and just remembering a fond time when we were all into Indiana Jones and there's like the toys and
and the future seemed so bright, didn't it? It was like, oh my goodness, look at all this stuff. But yeah, unfortunately, a lot of that stuff never came to be. But hopefully. Maybe we're in an Indiana Jones renaissance right now, everybody. Let's stay positive, and let's see what Disney will bring us in the future. Thanks a lot, Steve, for writing in.
Okay, that's it for the day then.
Okay, kids, there you have it. That is our review of the free comic book day indie adventure Temple of Yearning.
Yes, it was a free review, too, for free comic book day.
So we didn't charge you anything for it.
We didn't charge anything. So if you guys haven't already, like we mentioned, check out the radio drama. Just type it in, and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Yearning radio drama, and I'm sure the link will pop up, and I'm sure Ed will put it hopefully in the show notes.
We'll put it on the Facebook page too. Yeah, we'll put it out there, and yeah.
And don't forget the interview with writer Mark Evanier. Good stuff.
And if you like the artwork from this mini Indiana Jones adventure, and also from Indiana Jones Adventures Volumes 1 and 2. You are going to love our next segment. We will head into the Raven's Nest with the artist of this tale and Indiana Jones Adventures, Ethan Beavers. That is what's headed your way next time on The Further Adventures of Indiana Jones.